This video was made possible by super sexy sponsor patreon.com/gamechamp. Members at any tier get early access to my videos. After this one's done, why not head over there so you can see the brand new continuation of the coinless run in Super Mario Land. Honestly, even outside of advertising mode, I really like the Mario Land video. I hope you like it too. Good morning everybody and welcome back to VG Myths, the online internet video game TV show heading in the direction of direction. Splatoon 3 Side Order is the long-awaited sequel to Splatoon 2 Octo expansion, repurposing the ink-based shooter into a roguelite featuring a randomly generated sequence of levels with randomly generated temporary upgrades. Once you inevitably die painfully and horribly, you have to restart from the beginning with some pearls for your efforts, which can be spent on permanent upgrades in the form of hacks. You'd think the obvious choice for a challenge run here would just be without shooting, same way we did all 4 prior games. Problem with that, Side Order allows for a variety of playstyles thanks to both the permanent and temporary upgrades offering such a variety of buffs that a build focusing on sub and special weapons is completely casually viable. That's why, long before I got to it, multiple people already did runs not just without shooting, but also without attacking at all. Even an attackless Side Order run is just way too sane for me to ever handle. Nevertheless, I did look into making a video on the same run a couple years ago, but decided it wouldn't be fun or interesting enough. Then, Nintendo, my arch nemesis, ruined everything by releasing the hit new video game console, the Nintendo Switch 2. In addition to running Switch 2 Welcome Tour, the Switch 2 can run most Switch 1 software through some kind of fancy techno mumbo-jumbo. It's mostly accurate to playing on the original console, just with more power under the hood. But sometimes the emulation isn't 100% accurate, resulting in super cool, fun bonus glitches. Splatoon 3 is one of the lucky ones. When the console came out, people quickly discovered you could now do a squid roll out of your ink, then do a squid roll back where you came from. Apparently, this is a really big deal. Nintendo, with true malice in their hearts, quickly released a patch that, in addition to a billion other things, removes the glitch. But I was watching from the sidelines and made sure to turn off automatic updates. I've been keeping the unpatched Switch 1 version of Splatoon 3 in my back pocket for a long time, just in case there's some golden glitch that could make for a really cool Side Order run. Then, in early 2026, the trigger for me to finally start this run happened. I'm bored and I want to play Splatoon. Splatoon's just been held hostage for 8 months? It sucks. I hate my job. Since an attackless run has already been done, I figured I'm gonna have to up the ante. Can you beat Splatoon 3 Side Order without attacking or hacking? The rules are simple. We don't shoot, we don't bomb, we don't special, and we don't hack. And yes, in the 1,000,000-to-1 hypothetical we acquired the squid attack chip, we don't squid attack. Another difference from the pre-existing runs, we're gonna be playing the game from start to finish. We boot up a completely new save file and start Side Order from the very beginning, including the 10-floor tutorial tower. This tower is not randomized, so we don't have many options. The ground floor begins with a fight against a single Andante. Since our guns are decorative, we're a bit outmatched, but not without options. The Andante is willing to swim on the level edge. It'll take a ton of trial and error, but if you get it to chase you at just the right angle, it'll fall into the water and explode. Don't celebrate just yet, now we've got to fight 4 Longuendos. Unfortunately, the Longuendo's smaller frame seems to prevent them from moving off the corner. I've tried for literal hours and never gotten even one of them to fall. I checked all around for all sorts of other strats too, none of which seem to exist. After defeating precisely 1 enemy in literally the first level, the Side Order attackless hackless run is mission failed. That's another reason I shelved this for 2 years. In addition to being generally easy in the main game, the tutorial is obviously impossible. I see all the complaints about runs turning into minimalist runs 5 seconds into the video, and I agree, I hate that. But I really want to play Splatoon, so we're going minimalist, baby. Throw a single curling bomb into the group to blow them all up with attack number 1. The final wave of this floor appears. One good boy. As you might suspect given his gargantuan size and affectionate nature, he's even easier to trick off the ledge than the Andante, clearing the ground floor with 1 attack. Floor 1 gives us the completely useless main damage distant chip and introduces us to the portal level type. We have to destroy the portal, which regularly spawns Longuendos. Inflicting damage is absolutely 100% no way, no how required to proceed, and I'm pretty sure that's literally impossible without attacking. Lure the mob of Longuendos to the low side of the arena, fly up to the portal, charge up, and release 1 curling bomb. We're gonna let the portal cook for a little bit. Our ink is poisonous, so as long as the portal's base is covered, it'll gradually take damage over time. While this gets it most of the way dead, poison damage is not legally allowed to execute the portal, so you'll have to end floor 1 by throwing out attack number 2. Starting floor 2 grants us a poison ink chip, quadrupling poison damage. This time, we've got to blow up 3 portals. Given the last portal required 2 attacks, you might think we've got to triple that, but I've got some tricks to show off. Stand by the topmost portal, aim down at the lowest, and throw an uncharged curling bomb. Properly spaced, it'll ink the bottom portal's base. As soon as any portal takes damage, a good boy will spawn. Wibble wobble around to dodge him and use our old plopping strats to extend ink all around. If you walk the good boy just right, he'll explode right next to the portal and ink its base. That preps 2 portals for the price of 1. No more enemies will spawn until a portal is executed, so we've got time to prep for another round. Plop a good puddle around the 3rd portal, execute the lowest portal with attack number 2, just like last time, shuffle a good boy off this mortal coil at just the right spot, wait a minute, and your final move is ready. Since these 2 portals are super close together, once you execute one, the other will get caught in the blast, clearing floor 2 with 3 attacks. Floor 3 is another portal level that gives something really decent, the lucky bomb drop chip. Now, all defeated enemies have a small chance of dropping a lucky bomb. We're gonna get some use out of them. These portals spawn significantly more aggressive and plentiful enemies, less cooperative than the good boys. Ride out to the top center hill and collect the special can. Fly onto the lower orange box and the horde will break it for you for another special can, giving a full charge. Damage boost up onto the middle ledge and wait here for the swarm to approach. At just the right time, activate your special for attack number 1, dash through the horde, and detonate on the lower portal. With a little bit of luck, the bottoms of both portals will be inked, and every single one of the stragglers will get taken out. Now we've got a break until a portal is executed. Take advantage to plop aimlessly around the stage. Sorry, no pretty pictures this time. There are only so many ponies one can draw before you start going sane. After about 15 minutes, you'll charge up a 2nd special. Use attack number 2 on the 3rd portal, wait for it to reach the top, and execute it with attack number 3. Rush to the middle portal for a little deja vu. We launch over to detonate the far portal, and by crazy random happenstance, the enemies we took out dropped some lucky bombs, whose explosions reach just far enough to hit the middle portal too. We bank a twofer and clear floor 3 with 4 attacks. Floor 4 gives 2 completely useless ink saver chips and introduces splat zones. It's simpler than the last few, but still a disappointment. Attack number 1 gets us started controlling the zone, then a couple capricios hover over to take it right back. I've seen no fancy tricks. We've just gotta kill every group of capricios before they can take away the zone. With proper aim to take out the final 2 sets simultaneously, you clear gliding that floor with 4 attacks. Floor 5 finally gives us the twist that makes this run even vaguely sort of playable. A drone killer whale chip. You might have noticed, Pearl has been roboticized and acts as our partner. She doesn't do much at first, but certain chips armor with her own weapons. Each has its own gauge that automatically charges over time. Once it's filled, Pearl will attack the first target she JPEGs. Since Pearl isn't me, she can do whatever the heck she wants and I'll still be completely valid. Or at least, I would be if this weren't the introduction to tower levels. The tower must be filled with ink to push it forward. If the ink supply runs out, it will slowly return to the last checkpoint. Each checkpoint has a long stretch of rough track that requires sustained damage. Pearl simply doesn't have the attack speed to get the tower all the way up through a checkpoint on her own. By the time she charges up again, the tower will already be back at the beginning. We are gonna have to assist. Just before the whale charges, use attack number 1 to blast the tower forward. That head start's enough for Pearl to push the rest of the way through the checkpoint. Repeat to pass the second checkpoint. 2 spiccatos spawn to shake things up. They're blessings in disguise. They're really easy to dodge and lead around, plus when they die, they drop a friendly spring. If you bounce on this spring, an explosion occurs which is fully capable of damaging the tower. And no, this does not count as an attack. All I've been doing is walking here. You'll be at this a while since everything has to line up just right. The 1,000,000-to-1 shot should only take about 50 dozen attempts. A spiccato drops a spring next to the tower, you bounce on it, Pearl unleashes her killer whale, and that combo attack is just enough to break the checkpoint. The final stretch works basically the same, just with a greater total distance. It'll probably get frustrating as you just barely miss the goal and lose everything, but after a couple dozen million attempts, you're bound to reach the top, clearing springing dot floor and 2 attacks. Floor 6 gives us 2, once again, completely useless main range chips, and challenges us with a double splat zone. I initially wrote this off as obviously impossible on sight, but we've got 2 things in our favor. First, the initial 2 drizzling capricios won't respawn till you take the zones. Second, the gushing try and fails infinitely respawn. Try and fails are kinda losers. They take like 10 seconds to throw out an obviously choreographed bomb, and are polite enough to stop in place after they get in range. That means we can lead them near the zones before Pearl executes them, creating an ever-expanding puddle. Plop in between waves to hit the far sides of the zones, and eventually you'll take control of both. The capricios will return slightly too late to stop you reaching the first checkpoint. If you were good at video games, you'd grab all 3 step-off discs to completely obliterate the arena and win the level in one go. Alternatively, if you're absent-minded and have way too much time on your hands, you can just do the entire thing all over again. A fun activity for super sexy gamer girls. I hate my job. With double zoned dot floor, our first 0 attack clear, we enter floor 7, 8, and 9. We can now choose which floor we go for next, similar to how we would in the main game. Rolling dot floor is the easy first choice since it's the introductory ball level. Infinite balls are way lighter than the 8 balls we're used to dealing with. Pushing them up with squid form is no longer necessary. Just walk into them to push at a decent speed. And you don't even technically have to do much of anything. These very good boys love playing ball. Given enough time, they'll score a goal all on their own, clearing with 0 attacks. I decided to go for whirling shell dot floor as my floor 8, and it's an even easier one. You have an infinitely respawning spin top to shred the floor in 0 attacks. Finally, floor 9 is escape artist dot floor. The only enemies here are the panicking alamambos who won't directly try to attack, and importantly, do not have regenerating health. Pearl can take them out all on her own to get us through once again with 0 attacks. Floor 10 is the tutorial finale, the boss fight against the ultimate lesbian, Marina Agitando. This is functionally a portal level with infinitely respawning enemies. areas. We'll be using a new strat on these portals that makes use of the killer whale's piercing. Launch into the air with a zip dash panel and hover onto one of the portals right when the killer whale is about to launch. Pearl will shoot directly downward at the portal and take out anybody stupid enough to be crowding below it. Some of those bystanders will drop lucky bombs, stacking a ton of damage that will hopefully destroy the portal in one go. You'll have to repeat that 3 more times. Hovering between both zip dashes in the right way will keep you out of enemy range indefinitely. If something goes wrong and you end up back on solid ground, you're safest while standing on the uninkable arena edge. Keep doing jump hovers for maximum movement speed and beeline for your escape. Once the last portal is gone, you enter the final phase to fight Marina directly. She doesn't have regenerating health, so this is hypothetically easier, but her health bar is gigantic and Pearl is a softie. If she has any excuse not to shoot her wife, she'll take it, focusing only on whichever target is closest with zero care for priority targets. We'll need some careful movement. You don't have much wiggle room, but if you can fudge the numbers and hit a zip dash right when the killer whale is launching, Pearl will drop the killer whale on one side of Marina, you'll fly to her opposite, and Pearl will scream straight into her ear. Repeat 50 billion times to finally rupture Marina's eardrums with 0 attacks, and clear the tutorial as a whole with 16 total attacks. With everybody's favorite lesbians reunited, the true villain reveals itself. The out-of-control AI Order who kicks us right back out into the game proper. The main course is over. Time for a side order. Marina will now appear outside the tower and offer to sell us hacks in exchange for pearls. The currency, not the lesbian. Obviously, since our run is hackless, we're not allowed to touch anything in this menu. And I mean anything. Fun fact that I didn't even realize until a little bit after starting this run. One of these hacks is already on by default. Color chip bias isn't visible in the hack menu at first, but when you do unlock it, you'll find it ticked up to slight bias. Some people might argue a hackless run has to manually drop this setting to its lowest. I disagree completely. Hacking means changing any settings in this menu. If slight bias is the default color chip bias state, then lowering the color chip bias is hacking. By crazy random happenstance, the conclusion that favors me is objectively correct. This run is heavily reliant on RNG. Every floor gives 3 level options to play, each with their own color chip reward. The color of a chip indicates what type of buff it grants. For example, red chips upgrade damage dealt, and orange chips increase range. For our run to be viable, what we really want to see are light green pearl drone chips. Color chip bias makes the chips listed on your currently equipped palette more likely to appear, and ultra luckily, one of the starter palettes is Marina's. Since Marina loves Pearl with all her heart, she has a strong bias for pearl drone chips. With our palette selected, we can run into the real tower to get a real run started. Mission failed. Like I said, this run is heavily RNG reliant. The vast majority of runs end at the very first floor. It's in your best interest to keep restarting over and over until floor 1 has either the drone killer whale or drone splat bomb chip. And you may as well reset in the next few floors too if you get anything useless. The chips you'll want are any light green drone chips for obvious reasons. Depending on your loadout, either sound wave damage or splash damage and splash radius chips for likewise obvious reasons, plus the poison ink chip. Lucky bomb chips can come in clutch. Those extra explosions really add up. Lucky disc, lucky chain window, max lucky chain, and drone battery drop chips can be hypothetically useful, but I'd never choose them if I had another option. Sticky ink and explosion knockback are in the same situation. Run speed and to a lesser extent swim speed chips will help you survive running away from the horde long term, and stack with one of the most important chips in the run, mobile drone gauge. This charges Pearl's weapons just for moving around, and is massively effective even at its first level. The faster you move, the more it charges, and you're probably gonna be flailing a lot anyway. For the run to keep going, the chip you want will also need to be on a viable level. Towers and splat zones in particular are practically impossible until we've gotten a dozen or so of the right chips, so you can consider any of those an automatic game over. In these early stages, you're probably only going to be able to clear ball, hunter, or portal levels. And even if you have one of those, the run still might be as good as over. The time taken to beat a portal level with subpar equipment could better be spent re-rolling to get some good starting chips and ball levels. Be warned, in the first level set, there's one ball level that's a trap. Steamroller Floor features a spinny fan we must hit to raise this platform. Pearl will only ever fire her weapons if she's locked onto a target. Spinny fans are not legally a target, so unless you manage to lead an enemy in between her and the fan, she'll just stare blankly. Luckily, if you've ever cleared a specific level on your save file, its name will be revealed on any future tower climbs. After you've encountered and cleared all the other starter ball levels, you'll know that any ball whose title is question marked is an automatic run ender. All those others are thankfully super easy even without Pearl, thanks to an army of good boys. Different levels will need a different strat for a fast clear. On some, like High Tower Floor, you'll want to go directly for the balls and drop them into the pedestals. On others, like Pyramid Floor, you'll want to throw one ball for the good boys to fight over. Then tiptoe to the other and push it onto the pedestal that would be hardest for a good boy to reach, which here means the one directly on top of the pyramid. The other pedestal is sitting along the level boundary, so any sufficiently good boy will reach it eventually. They'll obviously continue to push it because they're way too adorable, but given enough time, it'll land right on the dot. There is one ball level that required a little bit more thought. We have to push a ball up a hill as springing Spiccatos hop after us. The Spiccato's splash attack can be used to your advantage. Let them do it just below the ball to launch it upward. The Spiccatos don't target the ball, so once it's magnetized by the pedestal, say bye-bye. Once you've got a few good offensive chips banked, you can start considering portal levels. Their difficulty can vary wildly. Sometimes the portals only spawn enemies while taking damage. That means you can spend as much time as you need inking whatever path you need in between waves. If you've got the killer whale, try the hover over strat whenever applicable. With at least one sound wave damage chip, you've got good odds to destroy a portal in one singular blast. Do your best to cover the portal's base otherwise so you can get it on another pass. Important note, while the drone killer whale and drone splat bombs are in the starting pool of potential chips, only one drone weapon slot is available, so you'll have to stick with your weapon of choice for the entire climb. In my early runs, I prioritized the drone killer whale, thinking its potentially massive, sustained, and precise damage output would be key to beating all the bosses. I initially wrote off splat bombs since, while they can attack faster than the whale, their lower damage output and difficulty in properly hitting a specific target made them frustrating to deal with. In practice, I realized I was really missing out. Splat bombs have the extremely important bonus attribute of inking the ground, which the whale can only do indirectly through splatted enemies. Inked ground is massively important for long-term survival. Plus, the faster attacks mean you can keep more long-term pressure on a portal. A one-hit KO isn't necessary as long as you can ratchet it up to the top. Splat bombs also have the incredibly, ludicrously massive advantage in splat zones. Some splat zones won't spawn any enemies until you've taken them. Since the killer whale can't spread ink, that's literally never going to happen. You can still beat some splat zone levels with the whale as long as at least one enemy spawns at the beginning. Splat them for ground ink, plop the entire zone, and time the release of the whale right after the zone has been taken to protect it long enough to hit the checkpoint. That's honestly way too much effort compared to splat bombs, which can ink the zone directly. That extra ground ink is invaluable during boss fights. In a fight like Parallel Cannon, Killer Whale is obviously the better choice since we need long sustained damage to get any KOs. Each fake Inkling has regenerating health, so splat bombs can only get a KO with a point-blank explosion. However, splat bombs can at least finish that fight, which I cannot say Killer Whale is going to be doing against at least one of the other bosses. Pearl will never fire the whale at them if you can't get close, and you're going to be locked to the edge of the arena just trying to survive. As for fighting parallel cannon, the strat's the same regardless of weapon. The arena is full of zip dash tracks ready to launch you in the air. Chain yourself between them until Pearl's weapon is charged and try to coax her into shooting it at one of the parallels before retreating. Very important bit of trivia, if you lose your armor in midair and keep flying between zip tracks, it will never recover. In addition to the recovery timer, there's a secret requirement that you must have touched the ground at least once since your armor broke for it to come back. Stay calm and only drop down when you know it's safe. No matter which weapon you choose, I regret to inform you that if you fight fair, you're gonna lose. One other important note about Hackless, you get 1 life. Just the one. After a couple weeks of failure after failure after failure after failure, I eventually realized I'm gonna have to bring in the big guns. Save scumming. Save and suspend while on the level select screen, close Splatoon 3, then back up your save using NSO. If you die painfully and horribly, that backup will allow you to retry the floor as many times as you want. And we can abuse this to fudge the numbers in our favor. Side Order's floor choices work on seeded RNG. If you just do a bunch of straight runs with a backup on floor 1, you'll see exactly the same color chips on every single floor, every single time, regardless of your choices. That is not true for the specific level those color chips are found within. If you make the same level choices each time, you will see the same levels, but making a different choice will re-roll for a different set. That means if you get a good chip on an impossible level, you can reload a backup from the prior floor in the hopes that impossible level turns into a possible one. With these strats all in mind and probably hundreds of rerolls, I finally got the critical early game RNG I needed. First, drone splat bombs on bowl.floor. This level is actually quick clearable even without a weapon, but you've only got one shot. Chase the left Alamambo over to the opposite side so he sits with his friend. Then knock the spin top at the perfect angle for a double KO. Floor 2 had another splat bomb chip on orbitrail.floor. It'll be hard to actually hit any Mambos at first, but as Pearl throws out bombs, the ground will get inked. Once the Mambos stop inside a puddle, hide in the ink and slowly inch in front of them. They'll have less time to escape when Pearl eventually throws out her next bomb for potentially maximum damage. Keyword potentially. Floor 3 gave us the option for a splash damage chip, easily one of the best chips we can get on the ultra simple wide open.floor portal level. On floor 4, the only good chip was a Lucky Bomb drop very unfortunately placed on a Splat Zones level I'd never even cleared before, which turned out to be Whirling Crowd.floor. This one only features whirling accelerandos. Trying to ink the zone with Splat Bombs yourself will be a fruitless endeavor. The accelerandos will completely envelop the zone, and you just don't have the ability to ink the whole thing since Pearl can only aim at the zone center. This becomes easy when you catch on to the accelerandos' behavior. They have to move within a certain range to attack you and always launch in a straight line, so if you hang out around these corners, you can bait them into launching only along the outer barrier without touching the zone. Eventually, Pearl will execute one, turning it into a friendly spin top, which can then ink the zone. Keep the accelerandos distracted long enough after for a full level combo. Floor 5, we unfortunately settled for a lucky chain window on the Baby Easy wide open.floor ball variant. Then, in floor 6, we get yet another drone splat bomb chip on the portal pyramid.floor, which we can cheese with more accelerandos. Floor 7 gave us our first drone gauge charge chip on the ultimately easy careful aim.floor. Floor 8 gave great RNG with poison ink on yet another Mambo level. Then floor 9 kept the good RNG going with a choice between drone splat bomb and drone gauge charge, both on more free Mambo levels. The splat bomb chip decreases the price of splat bombs and gauge charge increases the automatic charge rate. By plugging in some super fancy math, the Strem chat determined that the Splat Bomb chip would reach full charge in 15 ticks, and the Gauge Charge chip would reach full charge in 17 ticks, meaning Splat Bombs are the more effective choice. We've reached floor 10 with a decent variety of quality chips, so they're all stacking for maximum effectiveness. Our floor 10 boss is the elusive bounder pinging Martial. We're in for a long endurance match. Martial doesn't regen health, thank God, but Pearl is really bad at her job. If you get close enough for her to throw a bomb, you're too close and Pearl will toss it so hard it bounces way out of range. Thankfully, most damage doesn't actually have to be dealt by us. Whenever Martial touches a bouncer, it will take 1,000 free damage. That's gonna be your main damage dealer even though you have practically zero control over it. For the most part, you're just gonna be going on a long jog around the edge of the arena and hoping Martial is good at pinball. Whenever it hits a bouncer, it'll spawn a small set of enemies. You'll definitely want to thin them out before they get a lucky hit in. Taking just one badly angled strike will force you out of bounds and end your attempt. To get some near guaranteed kills, hop to each side of a smaller group just as Pearl throws out a bomb. With luck, they'll be point blank or at least close enough to get blasted. Only approach Martial if the arena is free, and even then, only approach if you've got a clear path of ink and are confident you can retreat in time. When a good boy shows up, you won't have to do anything. He'll play his wonderful little ball game all on his own. At least most of the way to the next phase, there's a certain threshold at which Martial is no longer allowed to take bouncer damage. Once that happens, you're just gonna have to get Pearl to pull her weight. Phases 2 and 3 will be mostly the same, just with a smaller target, which is actually a good thing. I don't actually know this for certain, but I believe Pearl specifically targets the center of Martial. If Martial shrinks, Pearl can target it without as much shell standing between us and the center. The collision happens later, so the bomb is less likely to bounce too far out of range. My final time, 44 minutes and 6 seconds. Floor 11 gave yet another splat bomb chip on a super free ball level. Then Floor 12 gave us a dilemma. The only good chip is a drone gauge charge on a tower level. I scoped it out just to see, and yeah, no, we ain't clearing it. The tower starts at the bottom of this arena, which locks us in with the horde, practically guaranteeing death. I took a useless chip instead on a freebie ball stage. The good boys will do their best to knock the balls downhill, so hit one onto the middle pedestal first, then just watch them play. It's important to let them get in their exercise. Floor 13 brings a run speed chip, but it's unfortunately placed on a danger marked ball level with the lights out status, covering the whole stage in a dark shroud. I was hoping to just survive wandering circling around the arena long enough for a good boy clear until the most ironic possible technical difficulty. My lights went out. I also forgot the Nintendo Switch as a handheld console. One backup load later, the good boy strat paid off. Floor 14 gives a splash radius chip I absolutely can't ignore locked within a portal level. This is a hard one, with unrelenting waves of enemies that get bigger and more dangerous with each successive checkpoint. One of the 3 portals is directly next to the level boundary. If you keep circling around trying to survive, Pearl will eventually get some hits in. When it's almost dead, try to hang around it long enough for Pearl to finish it off. After that, if there's not too much enemy ink around the 2 center hills, you can jump back and forth between them to stall indefinitely. I prioritized the higher of the 2 portals since it's more difficult to hit. So much so, I accidentally blew up the center portal while going for it. Watch for spiccato springs and take advantage whenever you can to deal some extra damage, spread more ink, and hang around the portal long enough for Pearl to splash it. If she can get some poison ink below and it doesn't get covered, you can seal the deal on your next pass. Floor 15 gave another run speed up on the Mambo level Field Day Fortress top floor. If any Mambos are on the top platforms, you can stalk them by hopping between the 2 grates in the center. Enemies can't ink the grates, so it's always safe as long as you run away fast enough. Floor 16 gave drone gauge charge on the portal level Outstretched Neck Uneven dot floor. The zip dash located in one of the top corners is key. It launches high enough you can practically reach anywhere in the arena, including right back to the zip dash. You'll still have to worry about homing arpeggios, but there's a trick to make them less annoying. The spawning accordos prefer to stand directly in one specific spot on the arena floor. If you ink that ground, each successive spawning accordo will trot into it and melt all over the floor to make room for the next. As for the portals, get a feel for where on your splat bomb gauge you should launch off the zip dash for a perfectly timed aerial bombardment. Once that was done, I headed into floor 17 and was rewarded with the ultimate chip, Mobile Drone Gauge, in the ultra easy crisscross dot floor. Check out how much faster the gauge charges now. Our reload time is ridiculous. And we're gonna need it since floor 18 features 3 Splat Zones levels. Ping-ponging double dot floor luckily has a bonus that gives us mobility chip saturation. Not only will we move faster, Mobile Drone Gauge is itself a mobility chip, so we've got some ridiculous stacking and can hold both zones simultaneously with no issues. Floor 19's only good chip was a swim speed up on another Splat Zone stage, this time without any bonus. But since we did so well the last time, I was pretty confident and went in anyway. That confidence was warranted. We've officially reached the breaking point. As long as I rapidly move near the zone, Pearl will rapidly ink it and blow everybody else up. We're finally, actually, completely capable of holding our own in a fair fight. We'll be able to show off against our second boss on floor 20, the Layered Rotator Asynchronous Rondo. I'd been worried the whole time I'd been grinding out this challenge that this battle would be the hardest in the game. It was the opposite. Pearl can cover the center in friendly ink in no time. If a spotlight is coming for you, just hop under Rondo real quick and let it pass over. Since Rondo is relatively close to ground level, you won't have to worry about Pearl's range. She'll be dealing regular, massive damage. With enough rotations, Asynchronous Rondo will synchronize. Floor 21 looked promising with a vending machine corner, and when I headed in, oh baby, baby, did it fulfill its promise.
So what do we got? So if it's not this, it's swim speed.
No, you are lying. This is a dream. I'm in so many clouds right now. Oh God. Is this is this brain death? Is it, I felt so happy that I remembered the feeling of gender euphoria. Now I remember I'm a girl. Oh, that's good. Let me get some of that. Let me absolutely just nom 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 nom. Oh, that's delicious. Oh, I can't get any more drone gauge charge. I am so full on drone gauge charge. Woo!
That's a full 50% increase over our prior recharge rate. We take it into floor 22, which had no useful chips, but at this point, we don't necessarily need any. We once again hold our own on a Splat Zone stage with hardly any effort. Then floor 23 abruptly dumped a brick wall.
Because remember, isn't it a thing that danger levels tend to crop back up until you do them? Just try and do it and get out of the way. See what happens. Next time I'll save after the vending machine at least.
Choke on him!
Since that was obviously not happening, I loaded a backup on floor 22, beat it again, and my entire concept of reality shattered. Compare our current floor 23 with the floor 23 we just saw. Even though I beat the same level on the prior floor, the levels here are different, and on top of that, the chips are different too. This changes everything. I wasn't sure exactly what happened at first, but eventually, with some help from the Strem chat, we figured it out. The first time I reached floor 23, I played straight through from floor 21. The second time, I hit save and suspend to create a new backup save on floor 22. Turns out, hitting save and suspend will advance the RNG and completely re-roll future floors. That is a massively, ludicrously, absurdly abusable trick that completely breaks the entire run. There's absolutely no limit. As long as you have the patience to beat the current floor to see the next each time, you can re-roll over and over and over and over again until you get a chip you want on a beatable level. If you're really dedicated, you could do this long enough to get any specific chip at will. A little late finding this out over 2/3 into a viable run after weeks of suffering, especially considering it was already public knowledge. I really should consider doing research at some point. Cool thing too, vending machine stock isn't rolled until you enter the area, so the save and suspend trick can re-roll it for whichever hassle-free chip you'd like, in multiple copies if you can afford it.
Like, I think, yeah. But I've been having a lot of, oh my god.
Mobile drum gauge, mobile drum gauge. That's double, baby. Oh wow, I can't wait to see what that's like, baby. Oh my.
At this point, I'm not even gonna bother listing the levels. We're superpowered beyond what any reasonable challenge run should be capable of, and we just keep getting stronger. We can blast past the horde and portal levels, we can hold the zone and zone levels, and we can even break through checkpoints and tower levels. The run isn't a run anymore, it's just a casual walk. After probably 100 backup save reloads, we finally reach the final floor 30, where we fight the final boss, Order. It's really easy. That's it. The end. No, seriously. That's it. Video's over. See, this is kinda why the run got shelved. Even when the early game was interesting, by the end, you're still kind of super overpowered. Oh, and I guess I should also mention, mission failed again, by the way. The final boss has a phase 2, remember? I didn't. I literally forgot about this until the Strem chat reminded me, like literally the day we got to the final boss. I really should do research at some point. We can get past the part where it tells you to press ZR, thankfully. That's actually really easy. Just press ZL. Check it, it works. But for the actual phase 2, you start without any color chips and have to obtain more by destroying portals. Without any Pearl Drone chips, we've got no choice but to attack until we get some, and the minimum number of required attacks is gonna vary depending on the palette you came in with. The Brella is one of the absolute worst possible choices. To minimalize this, we'd need something like a Splatling, and to unlock one of those, we'd need to grind 1,000,000 runs to collect enough keys to randomly find one in the lockers outside. It was upon this realization, after months of investment into a run I never even liked that much in the first place, that I finally decided the Splatoon 3 side order attackless, hackless run is screw it. That's right, you're not getting a conclusion. I'm invoking the secret VG Myth screw it clause that was always in the fine print. I'm actually genuinely choosing my own well-being, and it's not a joke this time. I figured I'd still make the video though, since, come on, we got like over half an hour out of this thing, right? That's good enough. Don't worry, pinky swear, the screw it clause isn't gonna be a regular thing. In fact, this is the only time I'll ever use it. Oh, god damn. Before heading out, reminder that if you want to make more videos like this possible, you can head over to patreon.com/GameChamp and watch one of my new favorites, the Super Mario Land coinless video. Special thanks to all Patreon backers, including Salty Sweet, Anon42, Leslam. Don't you dare click away from the credits. Evil Game Champ is like Bad Evening Nobody and Unwelcome Forward to WH Facts, the offline on-paper board game movie. Candy Crab Tran says Gwen is great. Natalie Kalita, Jorb, Arcones. Plesiosaurs may have given live birth to well-developed babies and were attentive parents who lived in pods. Attempted wholesomeness. Literal Cat Mint Leaf Winged Cat Girl is gay and doesn't go to bed on time. Reblog if you too are gay and or don't go to bed on time. Objection wishes everyone the best of luck with their real-life 2026 damage list run. Trish Chandler, Risky, Darknet, frequently a doofus, occasionally an idiot, always a fool. F. Amadon. Oh boy, I'm gonna make some hedgehog stew today. Ian Beck, Biohazard. Oh hey, that's me, Arsonist Cat. Sorio99, Cody Merchant, Lesbian Mercenary Mech Warrior Aurelia, now for hire. Landfair Pawulganil Gogari Chundrodwin Ciliant Celio Gogogoch. Touchstone Banana Phone, Ken of Red Lions, Morgan Luna Nix. Yetsugaru, Love Story Gaming TTV, Frilly Lily, Celica, Flame Solace, Kelzo. Macaroni Cat personally endorses running away like a little sissy baby. Taheka. Daybreak, the NB Auroran Goddess, would like to ask everyone to continue living no matter how hostile the world gets. Kimberly, the Gamer Bee, who was very tired all the time you see. Random Internet Cat is a random cat on the internet and should not under any circumstances be trusted to do non-cat things. Nicole the Gamer Girl and Gamer Girl. Bruna Kobold. Ella, Fictional Breach. Mind Planet 84. Starfish at Large has the trophy and is on the move. I'll start the car, you grab the guns. The trophy will be ours again. Vanellian. BJ Mashed Potato says to give Game Champ the 3 wacky numbers on the back of your credit card. CK the Penguin supports Miss Champ and states that trans rights are human rights. K the Mad Witch. Shadowfox0002. Pennyco 1, my gaydar broke, give me your transceiver. Cassie, Corporal High. Oof, ow, that's a lot of spears, ow, ow. Stop Sign EX. Zytra, who was going to make the name changes into a consistent bit, but forgot to. Quagsire is the best Pokemon. This is not a patron name, this is me, GamerChamp3000, genuinely stating the truth. Is Ferris V5 gay? Question mark. Sem Morris, Fake Tokafan, Georgie Lubinoff. Jetstream Jackie wants you to know that her cat Goggles is both fluffy and gay. Lodestar, Lurker Below. Saint Lesbian in Silly World, Thufer My Hawa, your #1 fan. All of the names on the right side of Game Champ's screen. Gay Bastich, Fujoshi Urinal. They're called Transformers, not Cisformers. Very Gucci. V-Man6785, Jared Bowser, Junie, Quack Bunch of Sevens. Women Love Cannons, Storm Wee. Fruit Squish. Molly Penelope III, the world's biggest lesbian, hopes you have a Euriful day. Haley McLean. Hoshizora Soul VT. Paper the Red says, fuck ice. Intrusive Thought. High529 says, remember, it'll be alright, no matter how much it sucks in the meantime. Nightmare King. All the bugs Yugi has killed. Chas Hackman. Firefly. From its Mew. Han Ackles. Max Modeva. Patrick Farrow. Theta927. Triangle and Drusi. Kathalina. Stefan. Emerald recommends biting things. I bet you can't guess where I got the name Zenith. Fern says, hi, Canethony, Canespire of Canetopia. Super Wumpa22. The Thiether Eye. Axie the Axolotl, who totally didn't forgore for months to fix a typo that aired in her first Patreon shoutout. Anyways, meet Cosmic Karma. What a beautiful duong. Choo Choo, the Immoral Emperor. Space Cat, Alien Bin 2553. Connor Punner 3, who was also gay and hasn't slept since 2007. Lilyflower 137 thanks Miss Champ for the KH1 tips. Battery 0925. Miku, Simply Mark, Tilted Pizza, Turku Bacon. Whitecron says Kasane Teto is peak and trans rights are human rights. A Bad Name Zero Nypark, Alexandra, Anthony Cermak. Bakubrad, Benyay will talk about Pokemon, open parentheses, this is a thread, close parentheses. Boingus Doingus, Ekron Vulture, getting so scared. Heretical Hamster, I pay my exotic tavern girl, so why not you too, trans flag. Jackwolf 5775, Just Bird, Kometo Prime, Me Gongaga. Nicholas Brown, Planter of QZ, powered by Eels, Rage Mage 69. Sakagura the Bip, Shy Guy the Masquerade, Selena McClellan, Starfall, Superbird, Trey BWN, Jackie Cat, who is probably shortening her name until she can come up with actually funny joke names again. Minx the Puppy Butch Jester. Can I say this? I don't know if I can say this. Fine, I'll say it. Splinkity Donko. The Nefarious Energy Sphere Eater, Umbra the Sphere Doomer. Tonight at 7, Local Idiot discovers running water. According to all known laws of thermodynamics, the snake GIF should not be rotating for this long. The snake GIF, of course, rot. A Vol hyphen. Comrade Terra says you should become a girl and kiss girls. It will heal your soul. Heart emoji. Digital Badger. El Mullet, the man who lives solely off of retro achievements. Piss Joke 3. Revenge of the Piss. Ranger Nix. Shogun Metal Shot. Doyless Stage, a square loser. Space Hawk. Playtendo. Niveria. Avalon En, Chimera's Goddess of the Abyss Q, Squid 33. According to all known laws of aviation, there is no way a bee should be able to fly. Its wings are too small to get its fat lit. Jacqueline the Scythe Lesbian, who might as well be a walking advert for Hot Topic at this point. Loot. Crash Sensei. Owen the Omen. Ala Dahlia, Angry Manga, Cro-Magnon, home of the Lunyar system, with members including Chroma, Umbra, Amy, Belle, Luna, Crystal, Alice, Astro, and Rose. Dr. Doppler, Eli McBride. Faye, a person who is most definitely not an actual Faye. Fulmer, Paper Hat Inc. Roxy, Psych Mac, Silvercaster 893, Steve the Wonderfish, Temitoa, Transamorphous. Miriam Burgers, Normal, Idara Feka. Chris Deltarune, my beloved. Also, my name is Marie. It used to be Lav, aka Lavender, but that name was dumb. Maxwell Bauer, Dot Beeps, McStevington, Uzi, The Aurora Boros, Transonic Girl, April Fools, damn right she does. This year, I will girl for summer. Scruffy, One Crazy Fox 1, Ray. I'm a mimic, says the mimic. Soy Sauce, Sybil, Violet, Cutest Servbot Emily. Watery E is very watery indeed. Iden, the Avid One, Amelia French, Bobbington, Enoch, Caxus the Bunny Girl, Born to Hop, Forced to Work, Cool Sidewalk Bug, Danny Doyle, 3. Caddy loves her wife Nikki and her giant, supposedly evil space death robot, Galactic Nova. God forbid a galactic entity duel it. Latte Guzzler says bats, dragons, and supernovas are cool. Lise, Mads, Notable Ronin, Sleepy Skunk. Stormy can't think of a username and hopes nobody reads it out loud in a YouTube video. Val, Crypto, World's Longest Game of D&D, Session 0. Please roll for stats. Rhythm Skunk is giving a shout out to a trans gay bunny. You know who you are. Beast Morrow, Fresh Cider, Genova. Hey there, Lily Waves, it's me, your good friend Noman Ba. Stefan Elias Remy, the unreliable oof counter Renard Anonymous who gave up after counting 82 resets, and Unstable Scene Girl. Let me know how much this video sucks and how to improve in the comments below. Don't tell me how to improve my voice though, it's already perfect. And get out of my house.